It doesn't differentiate whether you're looking for whatever the name you give here. If your spellings are correct, it will try to match. With whatever name it is, it will do a rough match. So if your object, whatever you're typing for it, is a field, it is a report, is it a task, is it a web service, it will just search along in the entire database of Workday and give you the different categories which that field might be belonging to or has a similarity in the name. So it's a free text field. You will just write the name. So let's say, in our custom report, we want to check the security of this field called Employee ID. So I'll just copy this field and just paste it here. I can type roughly as well, but as much as accurate information if you know about it will be good, so that your search will be refined. You just type your field here. If you're searching for a report, if you're searching for a web service task, whatever you do, just type it here and you click OK. Now the report will search in the entire background about the security and will find you in a differentiated way that what all matches with this particular field. So your search is divided between tasks, reports, report fields, and your data sources, whatever matches with the name which you typed it here. So now if you have a task with the employee ID, we'll search in the task area. If you have a report that you were looking for with that particular name, your report area. We were looking for the fields. We want to get the field level security of this field. So we have to locate in the report fields area, but this is the same thing. If you want to search for any particular task which you want to do, you will use the same task to do it and you can check the what security that particular task, field or report is governing. So you might get a lot of matching names with the field which you have added. So you have to be careful for what field you are using. So just compare the description of the field which you are using in your report, or an integration what that field is, so that you will accordingly check the security of that particular field. So our field was Employee ID field and it says that this is the Employee ID field, which says Report field, and let's see what this field contains. So it's also there as part of your description here. But if you go to your report field and just click here, we are looking for this field which has the description the employee ID or contingent worker ID for the worker which is a business object on worker, and that's what we have been looking for. So we'll go include employee waiting period. Where is my employee ID field? So the employee ID or contingent worker ID for the worker. So this is the field which we are looking for to check the security, because this matches our. So if you have similar names of fields that you might come that you had different names coming by. So you have to match the description of the field which you are looking for so that you check the correct security. So this is what the field you have been looking for. Once you have identified your field or your object, you go to the very last. Then you click on the View Security here for that particular field. So when you click on View Security, you will be taken to the domains which are governed and taking care of this field. On the security. So now, that was the easy task. Now comes the little tough part. Now you'll have the list of domains here. Now list of domains you have here. Now you have to carefully choose what domain you require. So this will also come by experience, but, as some of the tips and tricks, I can tell you what to choose and what not to choose, because you might have more than one domain which is covering in here. So, first of all, if you are building the security for your integration system or your reports, then you need not to give the self-service level of security any domains, which is starting with the self-service. Because these are meant, if you see this here as well, the security groups, that kind of given here as employee as well. So these are like user-based security groups which are given to these kinds of domains so that, as a user, when you are logging into the UI, you are able to do these kinds of tasks. So for the integration systems, the security that we provide, we do not include any self-service domains. So we're going to skip that. Now, other thing that will come to us will be the domains, which will be, we have to segregate on the staff functional area, staffing and SARI functional areas. Now these both two domains, our inclusion as part of our requirement, will include both of these two. So the good example will be the any next example, which we see, that where we have to exclude some kind of domains, this is depending on the functional area. So you would see some of the fields. Some of the fields are kind of used in a different way in different reports. You are running a benefit report and using the employee ID in the benefit report. You are using a compensation information and you are using that compensation information in a payroll connector. So sometimes the domains are specific to the specific population. Let's say, this report field is for the Canadian payroll, so when you are using it, there will be some domains which will be coming up here. So, depending on the usage, what usage you have and where actually you are using the data in your report or integration. You will then decide your functional area, which functional area it is, and accordingly, you will check the domain. Okay, that this domain I need to get access. So as part of employee ID field, since it is part of the personal data. So it is part of the worker data, worker ID, and also if you are doing any staffing transactions, if you are getting the employee ID from any business processes or anywhere. So these both are still looks like part of the demographic data that you are pulling in, and we have some calculated fields or something that we are doing, which is pulling staffing related information as well. Then it makes sense to have both the domains, because either way you would be using both the domains in here for this field. So this field is covering in two domains. So we will note down both the domains here. We will just copy them and then we will take a note and these two domains will be assigning to our security group. So first of all, we take a note of the domains which we want to assign. So now we have got two domains that we got for the due to the employee ID field that we need to cover. Now, first thing is that we have got the domains. Now, this was the first way of checking the domains for a particular field. Now there is another very good way, at least for the field level that you need. You go to your object itself, where your object is lying. So in our case, let's say, our object is a report and in our report we have the field here. So you can go from the for exact level of information. You can go from the field itself here, whatever field you need to check the security for. And then you can go here to the view security and check the view security option. So it will be like a similar thing which is happening, but right now you will be going from the object itself. And from the object itself, it is going to only give you the object level security. It will ignore everything else, like it was coming for report task and everything. Because right now we are going from the object itself. So it will give you the security for the directly object, omitting everything else. So this is the other way where you find. So here you are seeing for the security field. So that's where I was talking about, that you might see more than one domains which we will discuss, which is not required. So first thing is that we talked about that we will not need any self-service domains. So let's say, we have ignored this self-service domains. This is worker data, current stuffing. I guess we already noted it. This is general stuffing. So we have in the worker data stuffing information. We have kind of three domains. One is the worker data current stuffing. One is the worker data historical stuffing. One is the worker data general stuffing. So all the domains it has. So I think even if you give the general access, it is going to cover everything. If you have some historical data which is coming in, then you might need to give the historical data stuffing information as well. But this is showing all the domains which is required for the employee ID field. So couple of them we have already copied. So just let's say we have ignored the self-service one. So let's say we have ignored the self-service ones. And there is another domain which came up, Worker Data Payroll Company, specific CN Canada. And it says, Can Payroll. That is Canadian payroll. Now you see, there is another domain which is covered. But it belongs to a functional area called Canadian payroll. And this is the different domain to it. Now, if your report is such that you are not picking up any specific information related to Canadian payroll, Canadian employees, then you don't need to assign this domain at all. But if your report is such that you are pulling out the information related to this Canadian payroll or you have Canadian employees coming in, then these are the domains specific to a particular population where they will be covering your employee ID. So in that case, you would need that access. Otherwise, if your report 90% of the time, if you are not building that report, then you need not to give these securities. So these are like domains, which depends on the functional area, what you are trying to do. And maybe the functional area or the function which you are trying to achieve from the report is not valid in your case. So you would not include any of those domains. Similarly, self-service. Again, I don't need it. Worker data per worker ID, personal data part. I need it. Again, UC reports, learning record. And this is part of the learning functional area. Now let's say you are building a report and you have worked a learning inside. You have opted for work learning module and you are building a learning report, completions enrollments, you are running out of that. And there you are pulling the information around the learning data. So in that case you are also using the employee ID, that which employee has covered what and all. So in that case you might find it interesting to add this domain, because you will be pulling out and using the learning data. In that case, it might make sense.